fables to facts, exploring truth behind beliefs.
Let's get back to the topic of our previous pilot episode where we discussed snakes, serpents, symbolism behind them. We mentioned Saint George. The point of our research and investigation is to figure out the initial origin behind the symbol of the serpent, of the snake, at least in this episode. And let us start with Saint George, because it's probably the most well-known, at least in the Western world, symbol of the dragon slayer, which is basically the serpent. Dragon is the serpent, the snake, and there is some hero who slays the serpent. And chronologically, let's try to get to as earliest mention of the serpents in cultures of the world.
Okay. Yes, there's actually very little known about the life of St. George. What we do know is he was born in Cappadocia in modern-day Turkey around 280 CE. He was a Roman soldier and a Christian martyr, and the reason for his his canonization was that he protected Christians during the persecution of them in the Roman Empire. And he died in 303 CE. This was before the Edict of Milan, so before Emperor Constantine made Christian he stopped made it religious tolerance and stopped the persecution of Christians. So it's pretty huge. So this is
okay. That's his biography. How is he exactly related to the dragon? When was this myth, legend, or record created, and what it is about? What do you know about it?
A good point, Arthur. So he was canonized, he became a saint almost 200 years after his death. But the very first picture of him slaying slaying a dragon was, I'll just show you a picture here.
Mm-hmm.
So the very earliest one, he slayed an actual serpent. It wasn't a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in a place in Cappadocia, and it's in I can't pronounce the word. Sorry, a drawing. It's just a drawing, right? As you see here,
Okay.
a drawing of a wall painting in Cappadocia around the 7th, 8th century, and they're very obviously snakes. They're not dragons. So
Yeah.
first
And
interpretation.
in the picture, it is very symbolic instead of depicting the real scene of someone fighting any random snakes. They are not random. They resemble caduceus. And there is the second person, if I
Yeah,
can see it clearly.
that's right. And that's St. Theodore. So
Uh-huh.
two knights fighting these two snakes. The very
Two
first,
snakes that resemble the caduceus.
yes,
Caduceus, which also later on became a symbol of medicine.
yes.
That is just a very interesting story in this picture. Like, why would Christian saints, knights, slay some? It's like a staged picture of snakes, like they are staged, or maybe it resembles some exact symbolism, because caduceus is related to Greco-Roman gods. Could it be possible that it means that this picture depicts that Christianity conquered something ancient, let's say polytheism?
Yes, absolutely. Especially you've got to think this is the Christianity was widespread in Europe by the time of these murals, and it's sort of like conquered, St. George finished off, conquered paganism, killed paganism. So is the end of paganism, the birth of Christianity, all happened around, the time of St. George.
In this case, why would paganism be so beautifully depicted as two symmetrical snakes? So, as last time we discussed with you, snakes are also a symbol of wisdom, but chaos, disorder. Snake venom is both a cure and a poison. It's something kills or gives life, or at least relief.
Yes.
Snake is also a sign of rebirth.
Yes, the
I
shedding
think we
of
need.
skin. Yeah.
I think we need to keep this question open for now, at least. So this caduceus, this symbol, which also resembles the, as I mentioned last time, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, three energy channels of Hinduism and Buddhism and yogic practices. That is an open question right now. Let's move on. So, what about the word dragon itself? Now we can understand, even from this picture, that initially Saint George didn't kill any dragon. The dragon in the modern
the first
understanding of
image, yeah, it's definitely a snake.
Yeah.
The dragon came around the 11th century and in the same small town in Turkey, which is now an open air museum. Anyone can go and see these. In a cave church, and it translates from Turkish to snake church. We see the first depiction of St. George slaying a dragon. So it's changed.
Okay, so maybe all the words, all the names of the creatures that we now know as dragons, those kind of dinosaur-like creatures, basically it's misrepresentation,
yes,
of what our ancestors called. Okay, what about the word dragon itself?
Okay, the etymology, let's go into it. So dragon comes from the word drakon in Greek, which means serpent, snake.
Here we go. So any dragon that we're talking about is literally the snake. And also, from the scientific point of view, the word snake is a zoological term, but the word serpent is mostly used related to mythology, religion, and beliefs, let's call it like this. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. So it's slightly different from a snake. It's like a mythological snake in a sense, yes.
Good. Then let's go backwards. So we figured out that even if there was a Saint George who killed some serpent, which we now understand that it is a snake, was it the original scene, original legend, or it had roots in some other cultures? So let's go back. Just later on, we will show you the picture of the Egyptian god Seth,
yes,
who slays another serpent, another snake. And you can see that even the geometry of the picture in some Egyptian tomb,
yes,
or wherever that is. I need to check that out. Where is this image exactly from? But the geometry itself looks the same as Christian iconography.
So like imitations of what happened in the past. Yes, the iconology is all there. The spear, the dragon on the floor, and all serpents, and
And even the angles, how the spear penetrates the snake. And Saint George is usually depicted on the left, the snake is on the right, if we look at it. And then there is a spear like an angle. So probably there is some kind of sacred geometry. And of course, it's not a secret that legends are borrowed from the previous cultures or modified or syncretized.
And this is what we will explore in this episode. The imitations. As we go back further and further, we'll find out the origin of these this imagery.
Let's talk more about the Christian tradition, or at least medieval tradition. What kind of dragons, creatures looking like serpents or snakes do you know about from the Western Christianity and also the mythology that it is probably based on?
Well, that's a very good question, Arthur. And we've got an image which the audience can see here, and it's the oldest recognizable image of a fully modern Western dragon. And it actually dates from 1260 BCE.
Okay.
It's actually a redrawing of an image from them. From there, it's from a book from the 13th century, and it's called M.S. Harley 3244, and it's a bestiary. So its bestiaries were medieval encyclopedias of animals, including real and fantastical ones. So
Encyclopedia of beasts.
yes, yes.
Whatever they are.
And it was written in Latin, and lots of monks and priests wrote these things. Yeah.
Interesting. Where could possibly they get this image from? The image of this kind of dragon. I would assume they took it from the closest to their area, territory, and culture civilizations, which were pagan, and they were Romans and Greeks.
Yes. So the Romans borrowed heavily from the Greeks. And
so let us omit
Yeah.
Romans and jump straight into the ancient Greece. We already mentioned Caduceus,
Yes.
which is literally depicted in the cave of Cappadocia, Turkey, where Saint George tries to strike the Caduceus. Caduceus is known as a staff of Hermes, the ancient god known between Greeks and Romans. He was the messenger of gods. This is one interesting thing. Also, if you look to the Greek symbolism, there is the rod of Asclepius. Asclepius is regarded as patron of medicine.
Yes.
And even now, depending on the country, depending on the department, you can see either staff of Hermes or rod of Asclepius as a symbol of the medicine or the medical department. You can check it.
Yes, that's it. And like you said, he was the god of medicine and healing. And he became a doctor. Yes, he was like the doctor god.
This is interesting also how the symbol of the caduceus, which Hermes was carrying, it has two snakes, and it is probably more ancient than rod of Asclepius.
Oh, okay.
Caduceus has two wings and two snakes. Rod of Asclepius is just a rod with one snake coiling around it.
Yes, yes.
Which also somehow reminds me about Moses.
Yes.
Which also used a stick to trick the pharaohs, transform it into the snake.
Yes,
let's get back to Asclepius. So in this case, the snake is something good. This is a symbol of rebirth,
that's right.
but rebirth is not that well related to medicine because medicine doesn't need you to die, it has to keep you alive. So we don't talk about rebirth. Okay, to keep you alive, the snake venom is known as both medicine and poison.
Yes.
Good. So here we have a snake that doesn't have negative symbolism.
Yes. He drew his
Most
power,
probably.
his healing power from the snake, didn't he? So he's definitely a symbol of good. Yeah.
Okay, now we know that. And it is ancient Greece. Ancient Greek mythology has also various kind of serpent-like gods or figures like that. What else do we know from ancient Greece?
We know about the python and the in the Greek myth with Apollo.
Good. So who was Python? Or what was Python?
Python was a giant serpent that lived underground at Delphi. And Delphi was the temple, you know, the Oracle of Delphi, and where people from all over Greece used to go and get a premonition of the future, you know. He was even said that, yeah, well, there's really interesting stories of some people going there, like, shall I go to war with this civilization, which we'll go into in future episodes. But so with the python, lived under Delphi. So Delphi was top of a hill, a mountain, and the python represented chaos, similar
Again,
again.
okay. But he was also the defender of the oracles.
Yes. And yes, he was defender of the oracles underneath the underneath Delphi, yes. And the oracles, remember that the oracles were divine. They were sort of messengers of the gods. They was, you know, the gods were.
But not literally. They were still people with the divine power.
Yes, yes.
So we should differentiate. Let's say Hermes was the god himself,
Yes,
who was sent by gods from extraterrestrial real
yes, yeah.
to Earth to send the message of the gods. Let's call him the divine pater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very different. Yes, yes. These were human. They were priestesses, weren't they? And just yeah.
So they were just receiving this signal.
That's right. Receiving, yes. Receiving from the gods, yes. And passing it on. Yes.
But then there was this.
So Apollo, there's killed Python with 100 arrows. So again, it's his slaying. He was this hero slaying a serpent.
Again, we have this serpent slayer myth. But what was the gain? Let's say this Python was the defender of the knowledge of the gods.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
And
they were
the people who represented this knowledge.
They were seen as guardians of the underworld and messengers between the upper and lower worlds as well. So they were like sacred, this thing, and they're being slayed.
But also Python is a symbol of chaos. In this case, what we can decipher from this story, Apollo killed, or what is the proper word? Not even slayed. Okay, he slayed the serpent, but symbolically, he got rid of the chaos.
Yes. So the opposite of chaos is order. Yes.
Yes. So, he brought the order, and also he gained the divine knowledge, gaining control over the temple of Delphi and over the oracles. Now he could use their knowledge.
Yes.
And again, this is some similarity to, let's say, Vatican or Church did, accumulating knowledge and being the only one who could use that for
Yes.
power.
Yeah.
I gain knowledge, I accumulate it, I don't share it, or share it only with the chosen ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is interesting. Then, back to ancient Greece again. There was Medusa.
Yes.
Medusa, it was kind of human-like and snake-like creature, and it had hair,
The hair of
like
snakes, isn't it?
hair of snakes. Okay, so at the same time, the symbol of Medusa was again kind of chaos, or no, she was more a terrorist, bringing terror to people, and those looking at her will become a stone.
Yes.
We have the snakes. Uh, Let us just again speculate that Medusa is a kind of serpent. Just as for now, keep it as a speculation that bringing terror.
Yes. So in Greek mythology, now this so this is a serpent and who's bringing it? So this is an evil serpent. So we've
Mhm.
there's quite a few different interpretations of serpents in Greek mythology, and very similar to the Bible, where as you mentioned earlier, it could be chaos, temptation, death, rebirth. There's and as we've seen during this conversation on Greece, they've got very similar ones.
And again, it was slayed. It was slayed by Perseus, which again resembles the symbols of a hero conquering the chaos and bringing the order. Then, going backwards from ancient Greece, where could they borrow the ideas?
Okay,
I would
the
assume.
main empire at the time before Greece, or at the same time Greece, but a lot older than Greece, was Egypt, ancient Egypt.
Mhm. Very interesting topic about Egypt. As I mentioned before, and you already saw the picture of the Seth, also kind of a god of chaos, a trickster.
Yeah.
He was not absolute evil. He was more like a trickster. He was also a kind of a defender of Ra, the sun god. And there is a picture of him slaying again the snake Apep, whose another name is Apophis.
Mhm.
And again, we see the defender of the sun, God Seth, slaying the serpent, which is again a symbol of chaos. And also the danger from cosmos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is very interesting thing. The older the story gets, the more cosmic it becomes, the more global it becomes.
Yes.
This is very interesting thing. So this Apep was also one of the serpents considered bringing the destruction from literally the heavens, the sky, the space.
Mhm. Yes. We discussed in the first episode about Tutmosis the First tomb, and it's quite a unique tomb. It's very different to the other ones I visited back in 2006, where it was like round, and you had these the ceiling was painted with stars. And as you did when you took the virtual tour, you saw Apep, a big, almost a big mural with Apep on,
Mm-hmm.
and about the afterlife and everything else. And what makes So again, that astrology, the stars, the Egyptians recognized this.
Yeah, I would add that if Ra is the god of sun, which is basically the daylight,
Mhm.
the daytime, then Apep, this serpent, is antagonist, which is the night.
Yes. Yeah.
And also throughout the cultures, throughout the beliefs, or throughout the religious cults, there is always a day and night, like oppositions, which also, as you mentioned, is the afterlife, life and afterlife.
Mhm.
Also, very interesting thing, there is no ending of the life. Yeah, most of the cultures don't accept it as, for example, as modern Christianity at least. So you live, then you die, then you go to hell or to paradise, which is actually this is within one life,
Mhm.
but there is no rebirth. But literally, it is also a kind of rebirth, but only once in your
Yes.
lifetime.
Yes.
So you live, then you die, then you are kind of reborn or transferred to the another realm, and that's it.
Depending on how you lived your life, and if yes, if you've pleased
Yes,
God.
yes.
Okay,
But
and
in
again, Apep, going back to Apep, he was also known as like chaotic, a serpent of chaos. This is like
Mhm.
it's like an ongoing theme throughout mythology in different cultures. This serpent of chaos.
Serpents of chaos, and literally about Apep, um, the Egyptian priests performed rituals um, to, of course, they could not defeat Apep, even if it was conquered by Seth. Still, it existed. That's about religion. So the priests perform rituals to banish Apep. But why did they want to banish him? And that was very interesting. The answer is, if you banish Apep,
Yeah.
you prevent Egypt, you protect Egypt from the cosmic destruction.
Yes.
In this case, Apep is literally the symbol of some cosmic event. I will just hint to it now. It might be the comet, the asteroid.
Yeah.
I don't know what else that can be, but let's say if Apep is the destruction brought to Earth from cosmos,
Mhm.
I would assume that is either asteroid or comet or some other um, space cosmic body that can fall on Earth
Sure.
from scientific point of view. So this is another interesting parallel between snakes and danger coming from the sky.
Yeah. And also, like I said, the Lord of Chaos, he was known as, and a couple of more things. The serpent from the Nile, and again, the translates back into Egyptian evil dragon. So there's that thing that blurring of dragon and serpent, which we also get throughout mythology as well. Okay, I'd just like to mention as well, as we're on ancient Egypt, a very popular, if people are into
Mhm.
hieroglyphics, hieroglyph is the snake. And again, that's a symbol of wisdom. It means wisdom.
As I know, as I remember, Egypt has not a one snake.
Yes,
Yeah,
plenty.
so
Yeah.
there is this Apep, but then there are some. One of them is Cobra,
Yes.
which I think it is called Urius, the one that Pharaoh's
Yes. They would wear.
headwear had
That's right.
on the top, on the place of the third eye, which
Mm.
again like brings me um, similarities with Hinduism, where there is this Kundalini energy as the sleeping serpent lying at the bottom of your pelvic floor. And then we practice, when you practice something, you raise your energy, you raise your snake from top to bottom. And then when the snake is somewhere on the level of your head, like forehead, where the third eye, the pineal gland is, you become wise, you become closer to the divine, you become closer to God. Most probably that's also the Egyptian symbolism behind that.
You see that on Tutankhamun's gold and blue mask sort of thing with the snake as well. Yeah. A big symbolism. It was part of the crown, wasn't it? You know, that they did wear it in real life, you know, day-to-day life, not just in death. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was another cobra goddess. I'm not sure if it is pronounced correctly. I think it was Wajet. So that was the cobra, the snake deity, the protector of the Egypt.
Oh, okay.
And again, if you just randomly speak about the snakes, okay, are they good? Are they bad? No, it confuses sometimes, but at the same time, Egyptians were worshipping snakes as the protectors while fighting other serpents and snakes who would be the destructors of the
order
of the land, of the order of the land, of the earth,
yeah.
coming from cosmos, coming from the sky. Wadjet, the cobra goddess of Egypt, which is usually depicted as the feathered serpent of a kind. Basically, that's the cobra, the body of the cobra. Of course, there throughout the time, throughout generations, she was also depicted even as a lioness with the cobra on top.
Yeah.
But the very first image was exactly the snake, the body of the snake, cobra, with two wings.
And other interpretations, depictions, the female body, like many gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, with an animal head, so the head of a serpent.
That was later on.
Yeah.
And I suppose every kind of transformation of the visual interpretation of the deities, the gods, is just to simplify, make them closer to the humans.
Exactly. To personify them, yes, to make it more relatable to humans. Yeah.
But I think these kind of transformations lead far away from the truth and the origin. So what we need is to get the earliest possible depiction. In this case, Wadjet was depicted as a cobra with wings. She is
very unique as well. I mean, you don't see that much in mythology in history.
At least in Egypt or maybe in the Western world, but that's not the only feathered serpent that we have.
Okay.
But more about Wadjet. She was considered as defender of Egypt.
Yes, she was another protector of the gods. So, so very sacred. Yes, a good serpent.
A good serpent, and there are several myths about who she really was. In one of the myths, she is the daughter of Ra, which is the sun god.
Oh, that's why the Eye of Ra, that's why she's also on the Eye of Ra, the hieroglyph sometimes.
Not only she wears it, she is the Eye of Ra. She is the Eye of Ra. She is that all-seeing eye.
Yeah, so she makes a part of the eye. Yes. Okay, yeah.
She is literally the eye.
Yes.
Also, this is quite similar to many other cultures. Snake, and in this case, Wajet, also is the patron of medicine, curation, of mothers, of fertility. But fertility, not only physical, not only human, but also she's the
Resurrection.
symbol. No, she's the symbol of the Nile River Valley.
Okay.
So this kind of fertility.
Yes, because the Nile was essential to Egyptian civilization with the agriculture and everything. So they relied on the flooding of the Nile, and it's something they prayed for. Yeah.
And very interesting. So one snake is the daughter of Ra,
Mhm.
and another snake is protagonist of
Yeah.
Ra
Overall.
at the
Yeah.
same time,
Yeah.
which might confuse the readers or the worshippers at that time. But it is not the only representation of this kind of serpent duality. So, as I said before, we need to differentiate which kind of snakes we're talking about in terms of symbolism.
Mhm.
So, the similarities between feathered serpents. The closest one I can relate to, which for me, it looks quite the same. So let's say there is the cobra with wings wearing some headwear,
Yeah.
which is Wajet, the Egyptian
Hmm.
goddess. Okay. Then who would know? But we go to the Mesoamerica, to Aztecs, Inca, and so on. So there is Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
Quetzalcoatl is literally the feathered serpent. The proper translation would be, so there is the colorful bird, the beautiful one, Quetzal. And what is that? Quetzalcoatl. And coatl is a serpent, another word of serpent.
Yeah. So feathered serpent. Yes. Yeah, and where?
Combining both of them means the bird, which is related to the flight, the sky,
Mhm.
and also to the colors. It is a beautiful bird. So it represents the beauty and also freedom. The air is freedom. Then Quetzal, a serpent, which again is a symbol of the wisdom and the earth in Mesoamerican mythology.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going a bit forward. So
So
the yes, please.
sorry. So Arthur, do you see similarities between the feathered serpent in Aztec mythology, the creator god, and Wadjet back in Egypt?
At first, they might not be that visible. Visually, they are quite similar. Then, in terms of yeah, let me call it their life, their history, the myths about them. So they are both related to humanity. Both of them, well, while Wajet is more focused on defending the pharaohs, the monarchy of Egypt, but also the fertility of the earth, of the Nile, of the ground. Basically, it is agriculture. Yeah, yeah, amazing. She's the patron of agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And agriculture literally means if you have crops, you can live, you can survive. If you don't have crops, you will die.
Yes.
Then Quetzalcoatl, who that was.
Well, I've got to use the patron say the little research I've done of rain, which you need for crops, of science, agriculture. So there are some similarities here. But these
Now think,
literally worlds apart. You got the old world of Africa,
Mhm.
especially North Africa, Asia, Europe, and then the New World of the Americas, which was like so these two very important mythological figures came to being most likely independently of each other, unlike what we've seen so far.
They might be independent, and we can just speculate. Okay, snake are snakes everywhere, but what are the similarities? Quetzalcoatl. So about him exactly. Number one, he was the creator of the humanity, of the modern one.
Yeah.
Let's say the
Of
the,
all
the
humanity.
most of the current humanity,
Oh yes, there's different ones. That's right. Yes.
implying that there were previous
Hmm.
generations of people, humanoids, or whomever. Uh, he was also like Prometheus, bringing the knowledge, the wisdom, the agriculture, the science to local humans. Then he was the defender of humans, the same as Prometheus. So there were some other gods, deities, creatures that were not that favorable of humans, but he was the defender of humans. Okay, if Wajat is mostly related to the monarch, to the pharaohs, and the pharaohs are also kind of sacred humans, or a bit less than the gods, but they are still favored by common people as almost like gods, the sender of gods, the representation of the god on earth. By the way, this is kind of a similarity to other religions, even Christian religions. Okay, that there is like the god that is unreachable. Then there are these messengers like angels, but they don't just speak to random people. And then there are these prophets that are humans by nature, but they have this evolved spirituality that they can have conversations with the God messengers, with the higher level of beings that are living in some other dimension, but they
Yeah.
have the access to it. So about Quetzalcoatl and Wajah, by the way, there is again the duality. The serpent, the snake, it crawls on earth, and
Oh,
then there are wings, there are feathers, implying that it can also fly high. So connecting these two symbols, by the way, which we can see on the Mexican flag.
yes.
I'm almost sure that there is an eagle holding a serpent.
There is. And that derives from Aztec, the founding of Tenochtitlan, and which is Mexico City now. And Mexico have sort of still honored the founding of that Aztec ancient city in the flag, in the Mexican flag. Yeah.
So it is again the more modern um, picture of the same feathered serpent. So instead of drawing the serpent with wings, um, I think they just took this myth as a bird plus a snake, and they just differentiated, they dissected one spiritual being into something more animalistic. Now let us think about it in terms of spirituality, yeah, in terms of beliefs, religion, and a spiritual practice. What could that mean? In terms of snake and feathers and birds. By the way, the bird
Okay.
itself
So
is a
birds have,
dinosaur.
yes,
Yeah,
it is. It is.
it
Besides,
is.
they're the ancestors, like the descendants of dinosaurs, the remnants of dinosaurs. And it's
So
been
kind
proved
of reptiles
in
as well. Okay, that's not too
So,
scientific,
okay,
but in
so
general.
let's go. So we talk about birds, flies. They have wings. They have feathers.
Mhm.
So when you talk about a feathered serpent, why these feathers? Like you say, these dinosaurs, again had wings. Some of them did. And and what has wings but a reptile?
Mhm.
Mythology. You're talking about dragons, yes?
Correct, correct. This is another kind of dragon, another serpent. So, what would that deeply mean? Um, these snakes, in general, in many myths, represent the earth, the ground, the soil, the night, the darkness. Um, Probably something solid and materialistic, the bottom. And sometimes these snakes, whether it's the Delphi temple, they lie at the bottom, or they are the earth itself.
Yeah.
Or if we're talking about the tree of life in many cultures,
Mhm,
at the bottom of the tree of life lies the snake,
mhm.
at the foundation of the tree of life, or the lower world, or the world which humans live in, or in some mythologies we're living like in the middle middle earth, at the stem of the tree of life, and there is something below which also represents the underworld,
Yes.
and the underworld, the world of the dead, but the lowest one. So we're living in the one real as humans, as 3D creatures, yeah? Then there is something below the underworld where the huge snake is.
There's also
Then,
a biblical connection there because the devil has also been in the Bible um, made out to be a snake, a serpent as well. So again, it seems like it's borrowed from certain mythological stories.
but why the feathers? Why the bird? The same picture, the same creature has. So now let's think, what is the bird? The birds, let's say most of them, nest on the branches of the tree, on the top.
Yeah.
They represent something divine, whether it's a pigeon in Christianity that resembles the Holy Spirit. Then there is Quetzal bird in Aztec and Mesoamerican mythology that represents also the divine nature, the upper realm, the higher one, the spiritual one, the enlightened one. So the connection of the snake and the bird means we connect top and bottom.
Wow. Yes.
Now, there is one amazing phrase that I love that is usable in many areas of life. Um, there is the god Hermes, or the Egyptian god of wisdom, Thoth. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Or in the alchemy, the divine teacher, the creator of alchemy, the bearer of the absolute wisdom, was also a mixture of several various deities and like heroes. Hermesus Trismegistus, 3 times wise. And the saints that referred to him are what is above, that is below, what is inside, that is outside, which leads us to also like, let's call it quantum physics or spiritual experience, where we are the creators of the world that is outside of us. But we have to connect this. To connect this, we need to understand this. We need wisdom to connect internal and external, top and bottom. And then when we connect this, we become enlightened. It means the serpent from the bottom of our spine came to the top of our head through the spinal cord. And let's think, okay? Now I'm going to Hinduism.
You like the third
There are
eye? Yeah.
Third eye, but not only, there are 7 chakras. There are 3 lower ones, 3 upper ones. The upper you get, the more divine
Yes.
you become. The lower you go, the more physical, material, animalistic you become. And there is only one chakra, the so-called heart chakra, in between, right in the middle, where they say, the practitioners of yoga, Hinduism, you are the most human, not too divine and not too animal. That's where the human is, which now I refer to Christianity, the creation of humans. The humans were created by the image of God, but only by the image. So they have some properties of God, maybe physical appearance, but also the divine nature. But we are also creatures of, let's say, lower real, more material one. It means to become enlightened, we need to connect top and bottom. That is very interesting thing. And that what probably Wajat Quetzalcoatl represent.
Mm.
Then about this top to bottom, what is inside and outside and the snakes, let's go now to the east, to the Indian mythology. I already mentioned Kundalini, the serpent that is at the bottom, going to the top of your body. Okay, but then there are also Nagas, which are serpents in Hindu mythology. There is, I don't remember the name, but one of the main Nagas, like the most peculiar one, that represents also the underworld, is the bed for Lord Vishnu.
Okay.
So Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, yeah?
Yeah, one of the main gods in Hinduism.
And there is the sacred bird, Garuda, in Hinduism, which is the natural enemy of snakes, literally and mythologically. And again, this is the divine combat between, by the way, Garuda is at the mount of Vishnu. So again, we have the top and bottom, bird at the top, snake at the bottom, and in between, Vishnu, the divine creator. Yeah?
Yeah.
So again, we have this duality, conflict, but also the unification. It is, again, my speculation, but I think it also symbolizes the human nature. When our lower instincts contradict with our upper, higher consciousness, but to get to the enlightenment, to, let's call it, become perfect, you need to connect the upper and lower and meet them.
Okay.
So this is about the also cosmic serpents. In Hinduism, again, there were also the fights between Garuda and Naga, the serpents. Now we go from India to Africa, but I would like to mention now the Western African religions. There are plenty of serpents in Yoruba, Ifa, and other African national mythologies. But I am more familiar with the legend that was transferred to the Caribbean regions by Africans. In particular, is Haitian voodoo, where there is Dambala and Aida Vedo, the serpent and the rainbow. That is the name of the creational myth,
Yes.
of how the world, or at least the planet Earth and life was created here. So there were two serpents, Dambala and Ida, also the male and female. One became the sky, another condensed or just rolled into a ball and became the earth. And there is again the worship and traditions of two serpents, top and bottom. And interesting similarity. So rainbow, where we can see it in the sky. So again, there is some sky serpent and some grounded serpent at the bottom.
Yes.
So the earth itself is a serpent.
And then through that, the creation, the creation of the earth. Yeah.
Again, we see serpents everywhere. They represent basically anything that we can imagine with wisdom, chaos, sky, soil, ground.
Yeah. They can be
Now
good,
let
they can
us
be evil.
let us think what actually could lead people to worship or at least speak about the snakes all over the world throughout ages.
That's a great question.
I don't want to talk about those snakes that became kind of, I will call them saints or heroes or something like that, but more of the primordial, like divine snakes that they are universal, they are cosmic. So there is another theory. If we already discussed the fight between the gods, the heroes, and the danger that comes from the sky. Yes?
Yes.
What could that be? And the older the myths or the legends are, the more clear and certain they are, and less spiritual, I would say so. What I mean by that, I think the first symbol of snake as a danger coming from the sky was literal.
Okay.
There are theories that the snake in the sky would be just the symbol of, for example, asteroids or comets, and would resemble the cataclysm that happened. Now I'm referring to the exact age which was the Younger Dryas period. Yeah, roughly 12,500 years ago, which after the period of global warming led to the global cooling.
The last ice age.
Minor ice age. It is so called. Why the snakes? Why the snakes would be relevant to this global to the period of civilization, if there was any? I believe there was. So what happened? Let's say people, whether they were advanced or not advanced civilization, but saw something in the sky. And there was this comet or asteroid shower that they saw in the sky, which looks like many snakes, or just if it's one huge comet, what does it look like? What kind of symbol would I use as a human seeing something in the sky like that? It looks like the snake, the serpent.
There'd be no words for these astrological objects in the sky at the time like we do now in our vocabulary. So they were to describe it to someone and through pass it on orally over generations, they would have to pick something similar, wouldn't they, in their vocabulary?
Let us think a bit more about that. So as the human 12,500 years ago, I see a snake in the sky. So it means a flying serpent. I write it down or I retell it orally. There was the flying snake.
Hence why it could happen in Mesoamerica and
As well,
oh,
everywhere, globally, people would see something that looks like a snake. And this snake in the sky, when people see it, most probably they would think of it as a divine nature. So they had some peaceful life, warm climate, always good. But then I see the snake in the sky. Maybe it is because, let's say, we sinned, and by some reason, the gods are not happy with our behavior. Yeah, they want to punish us for something. So there are two immediate thoughts that random human would think about. Okay, this is the punishment. So this is the snake that is the punisher, but we want to please it. We want to please the god. We ask the snake, please don't hurt us. And ask the gods, please forgive us for something. That's how the myths could be created.
That is a very good point. Astronomical events have ancient peoples, and even like, you know, 600-700 years ago in Mesoamerica, an eclipse, for instance. Oh, it's the gods, you know, they're not happy. We need to sacrifice more and things like that. They definitely were influential in you know, biblical and even further back ancient times.
But I want to go in details. So what happens if some asteroid or the body from the space falls on the Earth? What happens to the Earth? So there is a huge explosion. Then if it is in the water, the heat evaporates the water. If it hits some mountain, hill, soil, then it brings the dust up to the air. It raises the heat. Maybe it can melt some glaciers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it also might provoke massive forest fires.
Mm-hmm.
After that, if there's a fire, there's a heavy smoke.
Yes.
And some aerosols. There is smoke, there is dust coming up to the sky. And if the impact was that huge, that it was global,
Mm-hmm.
what happens? There is a sun, the asteroid strikes it at daytime, and suddenly everything becomes dark because of this smoke, dust, aerosols.
Volcanoes are known to do this, so it definitely could happen for an asteroid, and it's not just for a few seconds like in the eclipse. A few, you know, this is a long period, days, if not weeks,
Or years.
or years,
Or hundreds or thousands of years. The climate changes. So there was the snake that hit the earth, created darkness. That is the chaos. That is the punishment from the sky coming to earth. Do you understand what I'm leading to? This is the
It's the
symbolism that we can see in the myths.
the
now.
wrath of the gods. Yeah.
And there is the snake that covers the sun. That's where we see the conflict between Ra and Apep.
The eye, the Ra, the sun god, the symbol.
Or in Hinduism, the fight between Garuda, the bird, and the snakes that were sleeping at the bottom of Vishnu's bed. So then there might be some prophets, heroes, or just smart human beings, or not human beings, but humanoids that taught everything is all right. This serpent Yes, it punished us for a while, but we will recover. That might be the possibility of the creation of all these myths and the oral traditions.
And the slaying of it to bring order.
Yes, and when the humanity get rid of or just lives through the impact from the cosmic event that was symbolized as a snake, it means that humanity got back to the order and got rid of the chaos. But they didn't do it themselves. They again attribute it to some divine powers and to the gods.
Sounds good.
And by the way, just one last thing about Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. So in several myths in Mesoamerica, he was the one literally to help raise the sky after it collapsed. Just think of it. The sky has fallen.
There's a cycles, isn't there? I can't remember how many there is, but in Aztec mythology of Earths, different. Now we're on the seven. I can't remember precisely. So there's been different Earths before us.
Yeah, and in this myth about the Quetzalcoatl, so he helped to raise the sky. So the sky has fallen. He raised it up, and then the very interesting thing, which I think we will get back to it in future episodes. He created the fifth sun. It means most probably the memory of the people recording this legend or whatever that was about the Quetzalcoatl, they knew that.
And he's the sun god of Egypt. Rob, and then we've got it's too many similarities. There is.
And there is also a record of the humanity being erased, at least according to Aztecs, 4 times before. This is very interesting. So Quetzalcoatl was only the most recent divine creature that created the fifth sun. It means 4 suns were destroyed previously, before that. So 4 times the human civilization was almost fully destroyed, demolished, erased from the earth. This is very interesting how humans could have kept this knowledge for generations, thousands and thousands of years. I think we can finish with it unless you have anything to add.
I'm happy. I think we need to explore some of this in more depth in individual episodes. Yeah.
Okay, let us wish our listeners for the sun never to get out of sight. I wish you light. I wish you wisdom. I wish you enlightenment. And let the all holy serpents follow our lives.
Yeah, and if the asset yes, we want to wish that this sun does not die, not in our lifetimes anyway. Okay, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Like, subscribe, and we are welcome to discuss any topics that you would offer to us, or you have any questions or suggestions to bring into our podcast and chat. Thank you.